Welcome everybody to the regular trustee meeting of the Village of Swanton for October 15th, 2024. Call to order. Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda review. Anybody need to add anything to the agenda? Oh, sorry.
No.
Everything's good? Okay. Public comment. Number 4.
I do not have any.
Do not have. Okay. Moving right along. Number 5. Approve and accept minutes from Monday, September 23rd, 2024. Meeting as presented.
I'll move they be approved as presented.
I second.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any further discussion?
Good job as always.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, anybody opposed? Agenda carried.
Thank you all.
Approve and accept the warrants through Thursday, October 10th, 2024.
I move they be approved.
And I'll second.
Okay, we have a first and second to approve the warrants. Any further discussion?
One question on, where'd she go? On number 104, 10269 Firematic Supply.
That was the purchase for the rescue jacks.
Gotcha. Thank you.
I figured it out.
Okay, any further discussion
No, sir.
on the warrants? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried to approve the warrants for Thursday, October 10th, 2024. Number 7, discussion on Northern Forest Canoe Trail with Alex
He's not
Delhagan.
here yet.
He's not here.
He's not online yet.
Calling in, said he might be in around 7:10. Perhaps we can move.
Calling in to 7 or coming?
No.
He'll join via Teams.
Yeah, he'll join via Teams.
Okay, so let's just wait for Alex then.
Yeah, bypass.
Number 8, Public Works update with Dean Ryman. Moving right through the list really quick. You're up.
Come on up.
Please.
Remember to
Please turn your name tag
gracefully
toward the
turn your
camera.
name tag towards the camera. So, you know,
'Cause we
prosperity,
know who you are.
everybody will know
There you
who
go.
you are.
Alright. And we have to pull the PowerPoint up.
Yep.
And I don't think you gotta share it, because there's no one else here, right?
No.
Yeah.
So let's
Okay.
just go like this. I want to take it. Then it looks
Do you have it
like,
pulled up as a PDF?
it is a PDF, that's how she sent it. But I want to get rid of this.
Yep. There you go, that'll work.
And then.
Yep.
Okay. So.
So we started this PowerPoint in the spring and giving it to you now in the fall.
Yeah, as a reminder, he was on the schedule a couple times, but because of pressures and projects, he was delayed until
Yep.
until tonight.
Yeah, we got moved, but that's okay.
Do you remember now?
Yeah. We hired a new gentleman, Nicholas File. Just started with us, actually Monday.
Yep.
Doing good. All together with all the guys that we have about 48 years of combined experience.
So about as much as the guy who just retired. Yeah, 47
Gary
years.
Gary Bouchard had 47 years.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Wow.
Crazy. He was here.
Yeah. Yeah.
We wish Gary the best in retirement.
We do.
Yes.
That's quite a long time, yeah.
Yep.
Just
That's
talked with him the other day
really
and see how
impressive,
he's
Gary.
enjoying it.
Yeah,
And
he
he
is.
says that his wife has given him a list. And I said,
Okay.
just remember, Gary, you don't have work for an excuse anymore.
It's true. It's true.
So the picture that we got here shows Gallup Court and, North River. It's always been wet for years. So we had a leak detection last year, it was part of a grant. We did a lot of leak detection. I worked in that area to see what we can come up with. We really couldn't find anything. So we, put in some drainage and, some filter paper to see if it would work. It helped for a little while, and it started to get worse again. We happen to have another grant this year, so we worked the area, had a contractor that, through rural water come in, we located a service, and these other people with leak detection found a leak in a customer's water service line. So they were able to get it fixed, and now we don't have any water issue. But all the water issue wasn't caused from that over the years. I think we had a spring in the area, and I think it opened up a little bit. But, now that area is completely dry, and that really took care of it.
Can you share with us how big of a leak that was?
Yeah, so it was a 3/4 inch service line, and it was running into an old sewer, and it was just popping up all over. And it was, well, I don't remember how many gallons, but do you remember, Bill?
Hundreds of thousands of gallons
Yeah, obviously this was all before his meter, so.
It was running almost like
Correct. Before the.
before the meter. I
Didn't
think
you
it was
complain about
like-
any loss of water pressure?
No,
No?
no, I think it was like 15 gallons a minute or something that was squirting out.
Okay.
Yeah.
70 PSI.
It would, yeah, and it was,
Roughly.
yeah. So it's all fixed now, they put
Lot
in
of
some new
water.
pipe and it's taken
Pressure
care
over
of. Yeah, yeah,
And I highlighted that group that came in during one of the meetings, but again, grant-free, these guys are experts, they come in and they found it very quickly.
yeah. So this is pretty much the same company that came in. We got some old leaky valves on here. They came through, they found some leaky valves. We went through, we dug them up. We replaced them, put in some newer valves. We got 2 more out there, and they're both hydrants. They got little leaks, but they're not serious. And we're gonna be working on those next to get them done. And eventually, we're gonna continue to keep chucking away on the gate valves. We have a valve exerciser that we just have. Just wait for the company to come and show us how to use it, so we can start get the valves on a schedule and start exercising them. But it's pretty fascinating on when you're seeing all of those valves leak, how the equipment they have can catch them, you know?
Oh, yeah.
They could have leaked for years.
So what's their magic?
They have these devices, you got to have your valves clean.
Mhm.
So, and they'll put it on one valve, mainline valve, and they'll put it on another mainline valve. And I can't explain it because it's hard to explain unless you're there.
I think see the pressure loss between the two.
So
Isolate it.
they'll send out like these shock waves through the system, and they'll have graphs with different colors. And they have to take measurement, put in the line. We have to go to some of the businesses in the area if it's too loud, and I have to shut the water down for the business. This equipment is so high tech. When they had it on, I heard a business talking, and the business was 500 feet away from us. We were in the cellar, and I heard everything that they said inside the building. That's how high tech that equipment is. Yeah, I was amazed.
Huh.
Yeah, yeah.
To clarify for the public at home, the voters, we don't own that
We
technology.
don't own that technology, no.
We're not gonna be listening to you
Yeah.
through your water pipes.
So this was some of the valves that they found when they were doing the leak detection. And it's just amazing how they can pick up on the water.
It's an old looking valve.
So the leak detection and the equipment is really, to be honest with you, is really helpful. We don't have that kind of technology. Always would like to get it because, first of all, if you can find your leak and you can prevent it, it saves on overtime. It saves on water loss. You know, it all adds up in the long run. It makes a tighter system, and you're not, you know, that's revenue that you can keep. So having them to come in and do leak detection is really big. Really big. Then when you do get the leaks, you can go through and you can get them fixed.
Yeah.
Instead of getting a call at 1 o'clock in the morning or during high business hours, you know?
Or when it's 20 below.
20 below.
or it's 20 below.
Have you seen a reduction in calls this year simply from having this done?
When we did the leak detection last year and this year, we had a couple small breaks last year. We had one big one,
Yep.
down next to Swanton Lumber,
Yep.
and, that was our biggest one. But by having these done, yeah,
Yep.
because I can get to them, I can get them fixed.
Yep.
This year, they came in, they didn't find anything this year, but, you can't go through and do the whole entire village, you know,
Right.
it's a big system.
Yep.
So maybe next year we get another grant for them and do some more.
Good. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, yep. Hot box. We took that hot box and, I got prices on it. And for us to purchase a brand new hot box, that one there holds maybe, 2 ton. It's a small one, don't really need anything that big. To purchase that hot box is about $20,000 or more. So last winter, when we have time, we'll bring in a piece of equipment, we'll go through it. So the guys went through, we ordered all the steel, we took that thing all apart and we rebuilt it. So that box should last us many more years to go. That saved, it saved a lot of money, and we use it all throughout the year.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
You saved more than $15,000 on that one project, correct?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, we saved over $15,000 on, by fixing that. Yeah. So this sidewalk is on, Pine Street between First Street and Canada Street. Used to be a 4-foot sidewalk. When we went down through there, we paved the road on it last year. We had to do some, structures, some sewer structures, some storm structures. We went through, shouldered a little bit of the road. The curb stops on that side, we replaced the curb stops on them, updated them, and we put in a 5-foot sidewalk all the way up to, all the way to the end on Canada Street. The homeowner that purchased it, he pretty much did all the groundwork for us, and that's all we gotta do was set the forms when we got to the corner. So next year, I got a little green piece on Canada Street, we'll put a crosswalk and we'll bring it over to the end of the sidewalk over on Canada, so that'll connect it. So,
It looks nice.
Yeah.
Good.
yeah, this gentleman, he purchased the corner, he's a walker, and, he pretty much, he did all the groundwork for us. That's all we gotta do is put the forms up and, do the concrete. So that was awful nice of him, that saves some money.
Yeah.
Yep. And on the sidewalks, I don't have any pictures, we always have certain sidewalks that are broken up, different pieces, and I always try to go through every single year and I always try to fix them. So I always listen, some of the taxpayers will say, hey, I got a sidewalk section that's bad, we'll take a look at it, and, I can't fix them all, because we only have a certain amount of money in the budget for them, but I try to get as much as I can. Good. So we got a lot of clay tile roofs out there, and we have a roof issue on a lot of them. This one here happens to be on one of the side streets that we had, and we ran the line. We always had to hire out to get a camera. Village finally has a camera that goes on our Vector,
It's good to have.
and we ended up buying a root cutter. The root cutter is really nice. We've used it numerous times already to go in. The camera takes a little bit getting used to because it's big, it takes a lot of pressure, but we're still learning on it. We actually have the individual that we bought the camera from, he's actually coming back in November. And we're gonna go over a couple more things on it because we're still getting used to it. The camera, you can run it through water. You have to stop and you have to take a look at it. You can't run it and take a look at it at the same time because it's not accurate.
It's all bubbles and everything.
Yeah, and when you're bringing it back, it'll record so you can watch forward and backwards on it. So the nice thing is we'll run the root cutter down through, we'll cut it out, we can run the camera. If we gotta run it again, we'll run the root cutter down and we'll bring it back. So one of the biggest issues that we've had is we always had to hire somebody to come in and do the line. Now, we have that root cutter and we got the camera, so we've I think we've had 4 incidences this year that I've had to pull it out and had to use it, and it's really nice. That's a game changer.
Good for itself already.
Yeah, it's a game
So
changer.
that's the one that we talked about, might take
Yep.
2 years after you approved it. I think it's paid for itself in one.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
for people watching out there, so if you
Yep.
do a project, it's now a requirement that you have to have your sewer system certified before you can add a bedroom. And we ran into that last year for a client over in Wheeler Round, and that was almost $500 to have a video camera come in and take a picture of the
Yeah.
inside of the line.
So this camera, 6-inch diameter and bigger. This camera's not made for a 4-inch.
Not made for a 4.
It's not made for a 4-inch, it won't even fit in.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. And all of our lines that we have, 6 inches are main size that we have. We don't, a 4-inch line would be for a homeowner when they come out, unless they have a 6-inch line, but we don't run
So
service
is this an
lines.
attachment for the Vector?
Yes, it's attachment for the Vector.
So this is a bigger unit than what you kind of see than Router
Yes,
shows up
Yeah.
with their hydro jack.
yeah, the
Has a
camera is probably
camera on
about the
it.
size of a basketball stretched out.
Yeah.
And we have a case that we put it in, and the root cutter's got a case. They get treated like an egg. And when you get done using them, you got nozzles, you have to spray them, dry them, clean them. There's a lot of moving parts on it.
I remember we had that here, didn't we?
Correct.
Have that nozzle here for show and tell one
Yep.
day?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that is a game changer, and we all thank you for that. Yep.
Oh, the B6.
You all remember that day.
I do.
Yeah, that's a good learning experience.
Yeah, thank you for everybody getting involved in that picture.
Hopefully I never see that again.
Me
Oh, you
too.
will.
No, I won't.
You know,
7 years, Dean.
I
Yeah.
thought it went pretty well, you know, for the most part.
Well, you never know till you try something,
Yeah,
you know?
I think of all the things we could have done, it was the least hassle.
Yeah,
Solution,
yeah.
least aggravation, least congestion.
Traffic.
When you say you don't wanna see it again, you mean you having to control all the traffic
That's
stuff?
correct.
Yeah,
That's correct.
That's
It's a learning experience. Paving. Paving's a touchy subject sometimes. Sometimes when you pave a street, the customers don't want them paved. We pave them for a reason. Usually what I try to do is I try to look at the street and figure out why we paving the street. And a lot of times it's because the road's broken up, the structures are getting bad. I try to pave a street that I don't plan on working on. If it's, the sewer issues are good and the water pipes are good, usually I leave it alone and we'll, go through. I take pictures of water, and if I have to add storm basins, I try to add them. One of the new things that we're trying to work on now, that I've been working with Heidi, is, flow wells is a big thing. So, instead of having catch basins, next year, we'll probably try to do a couple flow wells, try to catch the water from going into the catch basins. So what they wanna try to do is get your water and put it back into the ground.
Oh, okay.
So we got a couple, every year we try to do a couple stormwater projects. And we have a couple projects where we have to do some flow wells where they want us to put in. So some of those flow wells, they're not very big, they're probably 5 foot, and they might be 4 foot in diameter. You have to use a filter fabric and some stone.
Yep.
And supposedly depending on the size, it'll hold a lot of water and it'll saturate it into the ground.
Just doing a little French drain
Yeah.
attachment off the well.
Yeah, yep. So we did Greenwood Street and New Street. So I did from Platt Street to Second. That's all we had the money for. So we did some shouldering. We went through, we had to replace some structures. And I took pictures before and pictures afterwards, and I think the streets came out really well.
Not very well.
It looked really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
and again, for the trustees, you'll have a decision to make when we budget build, but we're learning consistently here over the last couple of years what we have set aside for budgets for sidewalks and for paving is
Insufficient.
very low. It is insufficient.
That seemed to be.
When you're going through and you're doing a street, depending on the width of the street, and how many driveways, my average is about 1,500 feet. It's about all I can get, depending on the width of the street and the driveway aprons. Don't go very far.
How many miles of streets do we have? for the village?
I couldn't tell you how much, I'd lie if I had to take a guess, I couldn't tell you. I really don't know.
Figure it
It's a lot,
There's quite a bit, yeah.
more than 10 miles.
And there's a lot of times when it
Right
comes
around
time
10.
for bids, I reach out to different contractors, and they say it's not even worth them to bundle up their equipment and come here.
Oh, that's gonna be a
Yeah.
problem too.
So this year, we're gonna bid it out, and we'll see who bids on it. Be a lot easier. I'll give them the dimensions and the length, the width, and go from there and see what we can get. Stormwater stabilization, that was a very fun project. That was down off from Winter's Court, next to the Missisquoi River. And it was a pretty good sized hole. We had to get permission from the landowners. We had to cut a couple trees to get down in there. And only, we can get down there with the backhoe and 2 4-wheel drive 1-ton trucks. We had to make a road because it was wet, and we put in maybe 15 or 16 1-ton loads of stone to match the river base. And our last
Down the
load,
gully there at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah.
our last load, the truck sank right out of sight and we were done.
You're
That was our
kidding.
last load, we lucked out, yeah. But it came out really nice, it was a fun project. So we, like I said, every year we try to do at least 2 of them. We have a couple in mind next year, same thing. So we'll see how that turns out and if they approve us for it, and again, that would be another grant. So highway safety improvement grant, pretty much the painting. We pretty much got a lot of the painting done. It took a little bit to get it done this year. But, again, same thing as usual, we always try to start end of July and try to have everything done before school. And we try to have the bike stuff painted right around the bike time, and sometimes we gotta go out and we gotta touch it up. We also had a highway safety grant for some, street signs. Actually had a grant for almost $36,000, I think, for
Correct.
street signs, some posts, some delineators, some new, barricades instead of the wooden ones. But, that took a little while, so it's nice to go down the streets and see a lot of updated signs. So the village streets are actually in pretty decent shape for signage. If they had their way, they would have us go to the next size sign, but that would cost a lot of money. So I'm staying where I am for right now, because it works. The next size, you have to run 2 poles for one size and they're huge. We got a couple out there that they sneak in on us and I gotta go put them out. But otherwise than that, every year, that's always a challenge with the traffic. When the bridge was closed, it helped us on downtown to get some of those,
The painting went
some
right
of
down.
those painted, yeah,
Noticed
yeah.
that.
Yeah, and as a, you know, on this, a reminder, it's a competitive grant, highly competitive grant. The grant and aid, the stormwater's not, that's pretty much, you're gonna get something every year. But the last one, the beautiful part is you get to keep a lot of the stuff. You get to include your time and labor. And we maximized the 35,000 and actually got to receive about 15 grand back that will go, we haven't received it back yet, but when we get paid, it goes back to Public Works. It's a win-win. You can't beat it.
So the leak detection on this one here was next to Gallup Court in North River. I already talked about that when we came up through, right where the cone is, that's where the leak was. And the homeowner, once we found out where it was, got on it and had it fixed within a week and a half. So, again, we still got some valves out there that we have to replace. We still got some projects lined up for next year. This time of year, besides picking the streets, we're actually gonna be flushing this Thursday night. Then we have a grant to go through and do some flow testing on some of the hydrants. So Friday, we'll be flow testing with a couple workers from Aldridge and Elliott. Because every year, a lot of times I'll get calls from insurance companies, they wanna know what the flow rate, what the pressure is and all that, so I try to give them as much information as I can. And we have, some records, but they're not, a lot of them aren't new records, they're old records. So that right there will be nice, and, we'll continue to try to work on it to get things hopefully newer and get some numbers on the hydrant, so if somebody calls up, we'll know what number hydrant it is and have a lot more information. Then after, I guess that's the end on that, after we get done doing that, then we'll get back to winterizing hydrants, picking the streets, and, get back to cleaning out some, storm basins. And we're getting the trucks ready for winter, cause it's around the corner.
Yeah.
Getting ready for inspection.
Not till January, but.
Yeah, yeah. So otherwise than that, that's pretty much about it for right now.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's a hectic year, for sure.
Yeah. Every year,
You guys did a
it's
great
busy.
job.
We already,
Well, the bridge, the
Yeah,
bypass. and-
true.
Yeah.
most of my summer is already planned for next year. It really is.
Pipeline project and all
Yeah.
that fun thing.
Job security and the days go by faster.
We get excited about the $75,000 sidewalk for next year.
Yeah, no,
He's gotta do it.
Yeah.
But when you take those,
Grant.
when you take those grants and you got your regular work on top of them,
Mhm.
it's a lot of work.
It's an opportunity.
It's a lot of work.
yeah.
But when you sit back and, you tell your wife or your friends or something, we did that, you know?
Sure.
Saves a-
Satisfaction.
It saves a lot of money when we try to do it than having somebody else come in and do it, cause you gotta pay for their, labor, and they charge you for the equipment, and you don't get as much for your buck.
Yeah, well, hopefully the investment in the sweeper will help free up some
Yeah, exactly.
manpower next year to be able to do more improvements versus the monotony of cleaning
Yeah.
up the dust.
Yeah, sounds good.
Alex is on.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Fantastic. Everybody.
So Alex is on now. So if you want-
Oh, Alex?
Look at your hair.
Hey.
All right, welcome, Alex. Is it Delahagen?
Deligan, yep.
Okay, great.
You guys see me, or am I don't know.
We can see you.
We can see you.
You can see me? Okay. Great, well, thanks for having me on. I realized I zoomed into the town of Swanton meeting, and I was watching that for the last 20 minutes. I didn't recognize anyone on there, so I figured out that I was on the wrong meeting, but not on this one. I always mix up the village and the town, so my apologies if I was late.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Yes, so I'm an employee of the Northern Forest Canoe Trail. I created a bit of a slideshow to present an idea that I've been working on with Bill for Marble Mill Park, and I would love to present it to you guys if possible. I sent the slideshow to Diane, so I think she said she was going to try to project it. If that doesn't work, I can share my screen, but I think that Diane downloaded it.
Okay, so let's try, I'll try sharing it right now. So,
While she's loading that, Alex, I did see the story on 7 days where you had the 7 days
Oh, yeah.
reporter, and you gotta walk me through at some point how you dumped her in the drink.
Oh gosh, yeah. I think it was faulty communication. Really, I kind of gave her a primer on what not to do, and didn't maybe flesh out the details enough. So I think she just grabbed the gunnels, and the boat was tipping a little bit. She just sort of locked us in. But yeah, it made for a good story. Nothing got damaged, so it's kind of funny that it happened that way. She was really concerned about it at the beginning. She was like, "Are we gonna flip?" And I was like, "Oh no, don't worry. We totally won't flip." And of course, within like 20 minutes.
Yeah, that was a good story in 7 days.
Yeah.
We have it on
Yeah,
our
it's
screen. Can you see it on your end, Alex?
I see, not currently, but I have it on my computer. What I see is, it looks like a list of files.
Okay. We might have to
But
do this.
I have it on my computer, so I can just look at that, and then I'll just tell you, Diane, when I'd like to switch.
Yeah, it's probably awkward to do it that way, but I think it's the most effective way because we have your title page up right now.
Okay, great. Yeah, so this is a proposal for the Marble Mill Park. And my name is Alex Delhagen. I'm the Assistant Trail Director for the Northern Forest Canoe Trail. And Diane, go ahead and switch to the next slide. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Northern Forest Canoe Trail, we are an environmental stewardship and conservation nonprofit based in the Mad River Valley in Waitsfield. And we manage and steward a 740-mile long paddling trail that spans from the heart of the Adirondacks at Old Forge in New York, all the way up through Lake Champlain into northern Vermont, dips briefly up into into Quebec, across the border before coming back down through Northeast Kingdom, crossing New Hampshire, and then all the way up through Maine to the Canadian border again. So you can kind of imagine it like the Appalachian Trail, but for paddling. And our goal, really, the goal of our founders and the goal that we maintain today is to steward this trail, and that means all of the things along the trail, including portage trails, informational kiosks, campsites, water accesses, things of that nature. And the way we do that is primarily through a 9-week summer stewardship season where we hire a group of college-aged interns and send them out with a crew leader to various sites across the trail, depending on what's a priority for a given year, and have the stewardship interns engage in a bunch of different projects to try to connect people, as our mission says, to the region's waterways, heritage, and contemporary communities by stewarding and providing access to canoe and kayak experiences along the route. So that's a bit of an overview of what we do, and now Diane, go ahead and switch to the next one. And I just put in a few examples of work that we've done, so you guys can have a visual idea of what we're working on. Water access is a big part of it, and in these photos, that means a timber crib stair structure on the left, and just a timber stair structure on the right. We also do a lot of rock work, so I didn't put a picture of that in there, but we work with rock steps a lot. And basically our goal here is just to make sure that the access down to waterways is as high quality, easy to use, and safe as possible. Go ahead and flip to the next one. We also work on campsites, and that's basically what I'm going to present about from Marble Mill, but we do a lot of work to establish campsites, maintain campsites, and that means things like building picnic tables, campfire rings, privvies, which is what's on the left there. That's actually an accessible privy that we built in the Allagash up in Maine this past summer, so that's why it's so big. But often we do smaller, we call them thunder boxes, which are not enclosed, and then we have some larger models that are enclosed, but not as big as this one. But campsites is definitely one of our main focuses and something we love to do. Go ahead and flip to the next one, Diane. We also work on restoration. So in this case, in these pictures, there were campsites along a lake shore that were getting super eroded. So we will go in and try to restore the bank, shore it up with a combination of plantings and stabilization structures, things like that, just to make sure that the campsites don't erode into the water. And that can be on rivers as well as lakes. Go ahead and flip to the next one. We do docks. Docks are they're always a cool project. It's more carpentry focused, but really enjoy doing those. Go ahead and flip to the next one. We do portage trails as well. Portage trails are obviously super important. There are a lot of rapids along the trail or dams, and we need safe and accessible ways for people to navigate around the obstacles. So sometimes, in the case of the photo on the left, we'll build a bog bridge or maybe a boardwalk to go over a muddy or wet area. And in the case on the right, just establishing a nice path for people who are using the trail to get around. And in the case of the photo on the right, it's a
What
set
is
of
that
blocks.
material, Alex, on the right?
Sorry?
What is the material on the right?
So that's mineral soil, but we only cap the trail with mineral soil. In this case, we had dug out this trail, this bench cut, and then covered that with about 3 inches of crushed stone. And then on top of the crushed stone, we added this cap of mineral soil, which basically is just soil from 2 to 5 feet down below the forest floor. So we dug a big borrow pit and then cap it just to make it look more natural. This was a project in partnership with New York Department of Environmental Conservation. And one of their focuses is to try to make any sort of recreation infrastructure look as natural as possible. So the crushed stone was good for stabilizing the trail, but doesn't look amazing. So our partner, the DEC ranger, just asked if we would cap it with mineral soil. And that's something that's really important to us. We don't actually hold any land as an organization. So we're always working on easements, or we're working with partners, like the Village of Swanton, for example, or like the DEC. So we always try to work with our partner to make sure that the scope of work is acceptable and something that they would love to see done. We're not in the business of just coming in and building something sight unseen, because we want our partners to be happy and engage them throughout the whole process. Yeah, I think that answers the question.
Thank you.
Yeah, so go ahead and flip to the next one, Diane.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. So, yeah, Marble Mill Park. I've been up there a couple times. I met with Bill, and I met with Heidi and a couple other folks whose names I can't remember, but it was great meeting you guys there. This was back in the spring. I think we took a look at the park, and obviously, Marble Mill is a great recreational asset for the Village of Swanton, and already has, well, first of all, it's strategic for us along the NFCT, because the stretch of river that flows right alongside the park has relatively limited offerings as far as campsites, and then being that the park is right next to the town, for paddlers, it's a great opportunity to go into town and resupply or go to a restaurant or maybe even find a place to shower. So it's definitely a strategic point for us. And then it already has some existing paddler infrastructure as well. And mainly that's at the takeout and the put-in. And then we have, it's not a super formalized portage trail around the dam, but it's kind of obvious where you walk right across the road there. So there's already some paddling infrastructure, but we think that there is a great opportunity to improve that infrastructure. And the idea that Bill and Heidi and I discussed was to establish a new paddlers campsite, kind of in the back corner of the park by the tennis courts. There's a really lovely grove of ash trees back there, and we were talking about the idea of building a campsite there, which could be incorporated into Swanton's long-term plans for the park. I know that I was able to take a look at a printout of the long-term strategic plan that you guys have, and it looks amazing. It looks like a great plan, and I think this could be an amazing component of that plan, something that provides opportunity for paddlers and might bring some more folks into the downtown to utilize the local businesses. So go ahead and flip to the next one, Diane. So the proposed work that we would love to do starts at the takeout, which is on the upstream side of the dam. And the first thing that we would want to do ideally is to install, well, so there's an asphalt ramp there now. I'm not sure when it was put in, but it seems like it might have been a number of years ago now. And it's kind of cracked, certainly functional at this point, but when we were there taking a look at it, we thought that if we're coming in to do some work, we might as well replace the whole thing and install a new concrete ramp, roughly 30 feet by 6 feet or so, to replace the old ramp. And I talked to Noah Pollock, who's my boss, the trail director, who's familiar with the site, and he said that originally that asphalt strip, or the asphalt ramp, was about 10 feet wide, and it seems like there's been some encroachment by the bank. So we might be able to excavate that, and if we wanted to make it a little bit wider, we could do 30 feet by 10 feet, but it seems like 6 feet is sufficient if we want to conserve materials a little bit more. So the two options, the two ways to do this would be to pour concrete into one large form, creating a single slab. Challenge with that one is that the slope might result in the concrete sliding out of the forms. Noah said that he's tried to do this in the past, and it can be pretty tricky if you're building on a slope. So it's probably not something that we would be able to do. A contractor likely could, and if you'd prefer to have just one contiguous concrete slab, you could definitely probably find a local contractor, and we would be happy to try to make a contact on that one. But the other option, which I think we'd like to present as our preferred option, is to pour a series of cast-in-place blocks, like we have at the put-in. So if anyone's familiar with the put-in on the other side of the dam, basically we did this over there. It's a series of blocks that connect to each other. We pour them in forms, and they go right next to each other, and we connect them all with some pieces of rebar. And I have a diagram of that in the next slide. But that's work that NFCT can do, and we would love to do. So those are the two options, and we can talk about which would be preferable from the town's perspective. But We probably wouldn't be able to do the single slab, and we would be able to do, and would love to do the cast in place blocks. We also would love to install some new signage at the takeout, mainly a dam warning sign and takeout sign, and then a wayfinding sign for the portage trail, just directing people, across the road. It's pretty obvious, but we always like to have very clear, high quality signage at all of our sites to make sure that, that one person who might not have their head screwed on straight knows where to go. So go ahead and flip to the next one, Diane. And these are a couple of visualizations of the site and the structure. So on the left, I just created a mock-up of what a new slab might look if it's all poured in one piece. And then on the right here is a SketchUp model we made of the cast-in-place blocks. This one's way bigger than. Actually, I guess this is it's not. It's about the size that we would use for this site. Yeah, 32. So a little bit bigger, but basically it would be like this. We create these forms with some rough cut 1x lumber, and then run rebar and some steel rods through there, and then pour the concrete on top of that in each form. And that would solve the problem of the concrete running and spilling out of the forms, and then also provide a lot of structural integrity with the rebar and the steel beams. So I haven't done one of these yet, but Noah has, and he said that they work really well. And, there's an example of this at the put-in on the other end, and it seemed to hold up well. I haven't heard anyone complain about it, certainly, so we think that's a good option, and would love to do that in this case, if possible. So we can flip to the next one, Diane. That brings us to the campsite itself. So we're, as I said, is seeking to establish a formal paddlers campsite in this little grove of ash trees near the tennis court, and our proposed infrastructure would include 2 8-by-8-foot tent pads. And I think we had talked, Bill, about doing those with concrete, but after I talked about that with Noah, and it sounds like our paddlers honestly just prefer, a nice grassy area like what exists in this grove already. So maybe just flattening that out and even planting a little bit more grass seed, keep it looking really nice. And I think it sounds like that's what people often prefer, camping on a grassy surface instead of something harder. So that would save us some work, it'd save us some money, and probably look better for everyone. So those tent pads, and then 1 6-foot picnic table, pretty standard. A seasonal porta potty, a campsite sign-in box, and then a sign for the campsite itself. And then probably an etiquette sign as well, just something that says, this is an CT campsite. These are the requests or the rules, depending on how we want to phrase it, but something to indicate how people should be using the site. And go ahead and flip to the next one, Diane. This is a visualization I came up with in Adobe Illustrator, so excuse the cartoony looking picnic table and porta potty, but that's kind of what I can find. And this just gives a sense of what it might look like, roughly speaking. So with those 2 tent pads tucked in the grove, and then a picnic table maybe a little bit further back, and a porta potty somewhere in that area. Maybe it could be a porta potty that is more strategically placed to be of use to the people on the courts as well. But just a bathroom option somewhere in that area would be great.
Alex, is the bathroom that's, I can't recall if it was there when you visited, there's one at the corner of the parking lot at the Portage site that you would walk right by. Is that close enough?
Okay, yeah, I don't remember seeing that. So if that's there, then I would say that would be totally fine. It doesn't have to be right next to the campsite at all. Often, our porta potties are in the woods in the middle of, like a
Right.
cloud of black flies. So I think people are fine with going to the parking lot. And if there's just one porta potty option in the park, then that covers it. So yeah, maybe it was there. I can't remember it, but
Yeah, it's there usually April 1 to November 1.
Okay, yeah, well that pretty much covers our paddling season. We don't have many folks going out either before or after that, so that would be perfect then. So one less thing to worry about in that case. Great. Yeah, so go ahead and flip to the next slide, Maya and Diane. And then just a little bit of work at the put-in, sort of like touching things up, clearing out encroaching vegetation from the concrete ramp that already exists there, and then removing debris and obstacles from the water access. That one, I mean, floods are gonna deposit more stuff there, but, you know, while we're working on the site, we might as well tidy it up and it'll last for as long as it lasts. And then updating the signage as well. While we're going through it, we might as well come up with new consistent signs for everything and just install them while we're doing the work. So yeah, go ahead and flip to the next one, Diane. That's basically what we're proposing. It's not a ton of work, certainly. It's a very manageable project. I think it would make a big impact with relatively little investment, which is always what we love. That's kind of what we strive for. As far as timeline goes, we would be completing this work according to this proposal during the summer of 2025, so this upcoming summer, probably June or July. And I was looking at our tentative schedule the other day, and this would probably be into the July timeframe. And we'd anticipate 2 days of crew time with our 4-person stewardship crew. So kind of in and out, definitely not a ton of work. The thing that would take the most work would be the concrete ramp, and we'll talk about that in one of the next slides. But that's kind of what we're thinking as far as timeline. Certainly open to adjusting things if that doesn't work for whatever reason, but that's what makes most sense for us. Go ahead and flip to the next one. We also maintain liability, so that covers you guys. We have a $1 million insurance policy that provides protection for any on-site construction, and then there's indemnity for our land managers and partners. So in this case, you guys. So you know, if something goes wrong with the project and someone gets hurt, you know, that's not on you. So just make sure that to express that clearly to our partners so they know. Go ahead and flip to the next one. So finances and funding, obviously a very important part of this. The great thing about NFCT, and I think the reason why a lot of our partners like to work with us, is that we don't really ask for our partners to fund these projects. These are projects that we like to do, and we're often pitching them to our partners, so we're not coming in saying, hey, pay us to do this work. We find outside funding, and there are a bunch of organizations that have funding for this type of work. So pretty much we fund these projects through grants. The total projected costs, roughly $3,500. That was my ballpark figure, and I could provide the detailed budget I came up with if you guys want to see that. But it's somewhere in that ballpark, probably between $3,000 and $4,000, depending on the concrete costs mostly. And this would be a request that we're going to make with the Lake Champlain Basin Program, which is a local organization that funds projects in the Lake Champlain Basin area across Vermont, New York. And we have done a lot of work for them, or with them, I guess, in the past, received quite a bit of funding. So it seems like we're pretty confident that we could fund this project through that grant. You know, if that doesn't come through, we would seek alternative sources, but that would be the plan, to include this in a wider grant that we're going to apply for through the LCBP. So that being said, projects often do offer some sort of a match. Usually that means materials or some help with things like machinery, equipment, things that NFCT doesn't have. And go ahead and flip to the next one, Diane. So in this case, it sounds like, according to the conversation I had with Noah and based on you know, when I met with Bill and the talk that we had, it might be feasible, or it would be great for the village to provide a little bit of assistance with any or all of the following things. Site prep for the ramp. That would require probably some machinery to tear out the old asphalt, likely a bucket, a backhoe type of thing, just to pull it up. It could be done by hand, but it would be pretty time consuming. And then providing some help spreading a layer of crushed stone or gravel throughout the ramp footprint. That gives us a good base to work on. And then maybe if it's possible, even providing that load of stone. We can certainly include that in the grant, but if you have, you know, your road crew and they have a big pile of stone and they can just drop a load on the ramp and spread it for us, that would be amazing. Also with the concrete, you know, we can include that in the grant as well, but I think, maybe I'm misremembering, Bill, but I think I remember you saying that you guys have some town workers who are able to pour concrete. So if that's possible, maybe they can come and pour it into the forms that we build. And the porta potty looks like it's already taken care of, so it's really just site prep for the ramp and then the concrete itself. And you know, in addition to this being a great way to partner. This helps us with securing the grant funding itself. Whenever we're applying to grants, the organizations who are funding the project really like to see a match of some sort from the project partners because it demonstrates to them that there's buy-in, mutual buy-in. And that generally leads to better project outcomes if both parties are on the same page and working equally, instead of one organization trying to do everything and the other one not taking as much of an active role. So we can include all of these things in the grant request, but these are kind of low-hanging fruit and the types of things that our project partners generally are able to provide, especially if it's an organization or entity like a town, for example. So that's the request. Certainly open to talk about what's actually possible and feasible, but this sounds like a kind of a reasonable starting point for a match. And go ahead and flip to the next one. So that leads us to just a couple of potential concerns that were raised during the process of planning this out. The first of which being misuse of the campsite. I think that's something that we see quite a bit these days in Vermont, especially on NFCT campsites, is homelessness, unhoused folks using our campsites for basically permanent residence, which is not ideal. Obviously, it's a tricky situation, but these campsites are built and maintained for the benefit of NFCT paddlers, not for unhoused people. So it sounds like there might be a potential of some folks setting up shop there, and that would be something we would hope to avoid, but might have to confront at some point. And then other than that, just people partying or using it for basically using the campsite for ends that are not what it was built for. And that can include vandalism and destruction of property, like the picnic table, for example, or the signs that we have. And then flooding as well. The Missisquoi is certainly prone to floods. That's not something we can really control, but we'd want to probably try to come up with the best design we possibly could strategically to minimize the impacts flooding would have. And I think this concrete ramp kind of falls into that category. Should be a really stable, strong structure. So definitely anticipate that one surviving if we build it the right way. And then the campsite as well is kind of up off the riverbank. So unless there's a biblical flood, hopefully it would be okay. But that was just a concern we thought about in discussing the idea of this campsite. Go ahead and flip to the next one, Dan, please. So just a couple final thoughts and questions. Or a couple of final thoughts and then opportunity for questions. As I said, we think this is a great opportunity for partnership, especially given the new strategic plan for overhauling the park. I'm not sure when that is, what the timeline for that is, but I think this could fit nicely into that plan, no matter when the overall plan is implemented. If we do this campsite next summer, then the rest of the development and the rest of the construction work can take place around that later on, and it would, I think, add a lot to this area to have a nice little campsite for paddlers, and the paddlers might even be able to utilize the new facilities eventually. This also definitely satisfies a need for camping facilities along the stretch of river, because as I said, there aren't many, so this was kind of a strategic point for us to have a campsite, and then has the potential to drive some local economic activity. Certainly we don't expect it to be millions of dollars. We have a handful of paddlers that come through. We're not anticipating super high usership on this, but a few groups of paddlers coming through who go into town to resupply makes an impact to local businesses. So we always mention that when we're doing these projects, that there is a potential to drive some local economic activity. And then one last final thought is that there's a site kind of right across the river from Marble Mill on Foundry Street. There's an access point there, and I haven't actually seen it yet, but Noah, my boss, has, and he suggested that I bring it up and start a conversation about this accessibility initiative that NFCT has been working on. Basically, we've been, for the last year, partnering with a group of other outdoor recreation organizations from around the state to try to come up with a plan and then concrete steps we can take to improve accessibility in the outdoors. and mostly that means infrastructure. So in the case of the NFCT, trying to build paddling infrastructure that will accommodate people with physical disabilities or mobility challenges. And it sounds like from what Noah told me that Foundry Street access right across the river from Marble Mill could be a great site for a potential future project. So anyway, just wanted to put that on the radar for future discussion, or if you have any thoughts on it now. But this project is going to continue on for certainly the next year and probably the next couple of years. And as we work to identify sites that would be good for accessibility projects and then develop those projects, this could be one, if you guys were interested, that we might be able to work with. So something to keep in mind for the future. And all that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, or just talk about any aspect of this project that might be concerning, or yeah, just any questions you guys have.
Diane, can you go back to the slide that had the $3,500? I missed a couple of my notes. Are you able to go back?
I think so.
I had started writing something down and I got sidetracked.
Okay, I get there.
My apologies.
Your back button isn't here either?
There we go. Well, okay. Right
There
here,
we go. Okay.
so total projected cost, 3,500.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yes, that's kind of a rough estimate. I did work up a budget for it, but there were a couple of things that I wasn't sure about, mainly the concrete. The 3,500 figure factored bags of concrete in, and it's like 80 bags I think that we would need for this, which is probably not practical. So I think we would want to use a contractor and bring in a truck.
How much do you think that would cost?
How thick?
And I'm not sure what the cost of
I
that would
think
be.
he said 8 inches.
Yeah, so that number might change.
6 inches.
6 inches?
How many yards is that?
A second.
He's working.
Our public foreman's here, he's calculating what he thinks it might cost.
Okay.
Can you actually, you can see us and hear us, correct? You see us all in the room?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But for some reason, the sound's not going through the owl, which
Yeah. It's,
Yeah, we're not hearing it over
It's
here
not
at all.
very loud.
This is like coming
I
from
We
don't
can,
know
we
why.
can,
I can
Diane's
hear it.
laptop, and that's about it.
So we don't lose
I
them, let's
can
not
hear,
mess with it.
I can hear
but-
some of it.
Yes.
So I'm
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
So, Alex, just a question.
Yep.
You talk about a portage trail around the dam.
it's gonna cost
Obviously,
a
the
lot.
dam is very important to us here in Swanton. What would something like that look like? I mean, is that something you would be, you'd run up to the bridge that is above the dam, or?
Oh,
It's already
there
there.
now.
It's already there. VFW,
Yeah, it's already there.
we
Yeah.
own the land.
Yeah,
It's so, the concrete that he showed,
Yeah,
that ramp,
yeah,
that's existing. It's covered mostly with grass, but we own that property.
right.
Alex, this is a follow-up question, just the back of your mind. Have you checked on any restrictions, regulations with environmental conservation or the state of Vermont?
I think, uh-oh.
You got it? Perfect.
oh, there we go. Okay.
Uh-oh, he froze
He
though.
froze. Okay, what was that number? 800?
So 30 feet long, 6 feet wide, 6
Inches
inches
deep.
deep,
Yep.
151 80-pound bags, or it's 3.33 cubic yards, so it'll be roughly about $800.
That's what that was.
Yeah, I figured it would be under 1,000
And
around.
would,
Yeah.
would you be able to pull that asphalt out that's in the, yeah, you
Yeah, I
said
think-
yes to the
I think we
stone.
would want to, yes, if we went with the concrete option, we definitely want to pull the asphalt out, rip that out, basically lay down a layer of crushed stone.
Crushed stone and then put the concrete and the forms with the rebar over it that you could pour.
He didn't say rebar.
Exactly.
Oh,
And
does there
horizontal
need to be
thickness.
rebar in the concrete if they're pouring the slab?
Of course, why not?
Well, if
Pretty good
we
idea.
went with the slab, then like one continuous slab, then probably no rebar. But if we go with the form idea, then we'd want to put the rebar in. That's the design that we've done in the past, and we know that that one works. So I think that is kind of the distinction. If we do one large form, maybe no rebar necessary,
I would,
but with the forms, then with the smaller forms, yes. I haven't done a bunch of concrete work myself, so I'm working on the models and the designs that the NFCT has done in the past.
Okay,
So I would
just one
need
second,
to ask a
Alex.
bit more.
Alex, just one second.
so rebar at Swanton Lumber is cheap.
Uh-huh,
Being next to the river with what we have with floods, I would recommend throwing rebar in here,
okay,
just to hold it together.
gotcha, okay.
And if Bill's okay with it, we could form it and prep it.
Yeah, put in some control joints, so if it needs to flex or whatever, the rebar will keep it together,
Yeah.
keep it level.
Alex, I was just trying to see what our public works could do, as far as like the match in kind work that you were talking about, since
Can you come up?
Since
Yeah.
Dean, our public works foreman, is here, I thought it'd be nice to just ask what his thoughts were.
Yeah, well, what do you think about the idea of helping with the concrete or the site prep work, Dean? Does that sound like something that
Yeah,
might be
that-
possible?
Yeah, that's not that hard, to be honest with you. 6 feet wide, 6 inches and 30 feet, that's not that bad.
So before the trustees decide on this, Dean, you're saying that our in-kind contribution and financial, it's up to the trustees, would be the equipment,
Yeah,
backhoe,
yeah,
tear it out, stone,
yeah,
form it up,
rebar,
pour the rebar, pour the concrete,
correct,
pay for the concrete.
correct.
Well, that's for the trustees to decide,
That's-
but you think you can handle that in your day-to-day responsibilities?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That'd be great. Yeah, and then I think I cut out earlier, Bill, so I didn't get to answer your question. But as far as the environmental stuff goes, we probably have to apply for a state permit to do that.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if it would trigger Act 250, but I mean, that would just be part of the process, applying for the permits. And we've done this stuff in the past. I'm not sure if, I'll ask Noah about what the process was for the put-in, because it's the same idea, same type of stuff, near above body of water. I know that's usually what complicates things when we're working close to water. So,
Yeah, and I
it
think
might be a
you're,
permit requirement, but-
Yeah.
you're replacing something that was already there, so I really
Right.
don't know why you would need something, but, yeah.
When
Well,
we,
it can be complicated to pour the concrete in the water, so in this scenario, what I've seen people do in the past is you pour the whole thing on land and then scoot it in, push it
Screwed
in.
in.
So
That,
like-
I mean, that could totally work. We'll have we're planning to build, we would plan to build the form as one unit, and then, probably be heavy, but if we had some machinery to help push into place.
Yeah, there's some
I don't
big
see why that
machinery hanging
wouldn't
around.
it would all depend on how the water level is that year.
That's true.
Because I've seen sometimes in July and August where the water's really low
Yeah,
and you can get away with it. And the last time we worked next to there, I don't know if it was Noah or somebody I had to call, and we didn't need a permit for what we had to do because we cleaned it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my question, the Portage Trail,
Mhm.
is that this ramp that we're talking about?
Yeah, it's over by the
So it-
VFW.
That's an actual ramp,
Yeah.
it's not a trail that goes around,
It does now, and the other,
Well-
the out is above the dam in VFW. You go down Marble Mill, and literally, it's not often used, but is exactly as he described. It's the structure he decides, right back down in, so there's truly is a.
yeah.
I've seen
So,
people do the Marble Mill, and I've seen people go over the bridge, go down Foundry Street, and then use the boat launch.
I've seen both.
So I guess my question was, what's the definition of that? So I understand it now. What I thought was something that you were gonna use some sort of walking trail you were gonna build around between the bridge above the dam, coming back to the dam. That's what I thought this was.
There is actually that up at the upper dam in Highgate.
Right.
It's a really long trail,
Yep.
yeah.
So.
That's a workout.
Yeah, this one's pretty short, and it's mostly just walking through a grassy field and crossing over the road. So it's definitely not the type of portage trail I showed you in the slideshow where we're building, like a dirt trail through the woods.
Yep.
This one's mostly just basically a takeout and a put in, and then signs to direct people in
Yep.
the right direction across the road.
Okay, and the village owns that property.
We do.
Correct.
Marble Mill.
We do, because I was gonna put some picnic tables at the
Yeah.
VFW kind of close to the Portage
Raises a question.
this summer for
Gotcha.
like
Okay.
a little picnic area.
Okay.
So-
And my
I
last
think-
question is,
Go ahead, go ahead. I've got
Sorry.
one more. Go ahead.
you had mentioned earlier in your program that you also work with New York State.
Yep.
Is it easier or harder to work with New York State versus Vermont?
New York's way harder, for sure. Yeah, they have, the DEC in New York is pretty strict about everything. Like they have, if you want to cut a tree bigger than maybe like 2 inches DBH, you gotta get a permit for it, and that has to go to Albany. So it's just super bureaucratic. Vermont, we work with Fish and Wildlife as well, and it's definitely more streamlined. Basically, we have one contact at Fish and Wildlife who can help us grease the wheels and make things go. And with New York, you know, I'm still kind of new to this, but I've already learned that the bureaucracy there it's really time intensive and then kind of like sends you in circles a little bit. So prefer working in Vermont for sure.
And Northern Forest Canoe Trails, 110% fully supports the dam that is currently down there.
Yep, nothing with the dam. Basically, just getting paddlers around the dam safely.
I'm getting you on record, so.
That would be a 7-mile portage trail that they would need if we didn't have that body of water there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Thank you.
I guess, no, you had a question, then I'll ask my question.
All right. Listening to all of this, it seems like it is feasible. However, I suggest that you check with our zoning planning office. It looks like it's not a great change, but they have a domain here.
Yes.
They
Okay.
have a concern.
Yeah, so
I
Alex,
don't know
we're,
what they say, but
Right.
you gotta check with them.
yeah,
The second part of the question is, who's requesting it? It's our land, so I think the village has to do that.
we can, or we can have Alex navigate that. He just introduced himself to
For the
the
village.
select board.
Yes, you can do that. You can do that.
But if the trustees want us to pursue that on behalf of Northern Forest Canoe Trail, in terms of the DRB and whether or not we need any permitting, of course we will do that.
I'm just bringing it out so people
Sure.
will know.
Sure. I do think it falls underneath the repair and maintenance.
I do too, but they have authority.
Oh, yeah.
So then my question would be, what about the ordinance where we state that nobody's allowed to be in our parks overnight? What do we do? Are we changing that? Are we working around that?
We would have to
And-
modify
Very
that.
good
to-
point.
Also, is it just with an exemption for an FCT
Mhm,
only?
Correct,
Okay,
yeah.
That makes sense.
So you would have to
I'm sorry, I'm the
modify-
rule stickler.
Yeah, you'd have to modify the
Very good
ordinance
point.
to
Very good point.
allow
Very good
overnight
point.
camping for NFCT paddlers. And then, one of the concerns is gonna be, cause you asked it, we have our own police department, so we can police it, that's fine. We can
Yeah.
make sure that it's only used by the appropriate people. Flooding is not really an issue there, especially if we make it all grass, not a
Yeah.
concern. You will be a magnet. That picnic table in that back area is gonna draw people where we will have to have resources down there day and night. There's no doubt about it.
Correct.
I don't think we abandon this for that reason. We just will have to be very strict about policing it with warnings and making sure, but we should also consider the picnic table being something that cannot be stolen. So a
Not
fixed in place,
Concrete.
flood-proof, permanent picnic table.
Concrete picnic
Flood
table will do it. For
Yeah,
sure.
literally flood-proof unless the ice takes it
Yeah,
out.
float away.
Dean, you've experienced it,
I've seen it flooded more than once down there.
but I'm talking about you've experienced portable picnic tables and what happens to them.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
So this brings up a good question.
Which is why when
not?
beautification was talking
Exactly.
about picnic tables, we were gonna do it on the
That's up above.
VFW side because
Put in
it
some-
was more,
It's closer
open
to the
and
bathroom,
people
it's
being able
more
to see it
elevated,
and,
it's gonna be
you
more
know.
lit, secure.
if you go down at the beach, you'll notice that there are concrete benches,
I do.
Yeah,
so they can't steal them.
can't pitch your tent without
So,
a canoe or a kayak.
Alex, we are slowly enhancing, and a side note, you probably looked at what was, let's just say,
the master
a
plan.
master plan that has been since abandoned due to lack of funding.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that it's not gonna be improved in various iterations, But what about, does the picnic table for the campers have to be right there on site, or can it be up above? Kind of, there's like a common area that we're talking about improving that would benefit everybody year-round.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm gonna
above
put 3 picnic
where
tables
at the-
between the portage and the road.
Yeah, it'd be between the parking lot and the tennis courts in that upper area.
Yeah, something like that.
So fairly close.
Could have.
I think that would work fine. I mean, again, the approach that we take to all of these projects is to find what's gonna work for our project partners, because ultimately, this is your land, and our trail goes through it, but, it's your land, and we wanna make sure that it's gonna work out best for both of us. And, given the number of people who are probably gonna be using this campsite, I think it would make more sense, honestly, to have the picnic table in a place that would benefit the majority of users of the park, who are probably not the paddlers. So, we can just include that in our little sign, the orientation to the campsite. Just say, the picnic table up by the parking lot or near the tennis courts is part of this campsite. Please feel free to use it. That, I guess the only possible hang-up is if it becomes super busy and it's not available to campers. But I would say, on the whole, our campers are pretty reliant people, or self-sufficient, self-reliant people. And, I think if the picnic table was full, they would be totally fine. So that makes sense to me. I don't think there's any reason to not do that, especially if it would make a difference for you guys.
And like I said, it's not gonna be the only picnic table in the area. We're gonna put 3 over by between the Portage and the VFW parking lot on that side.
Okay.
So you'll have,
Yeah, you bet.
those, and then you'll have the one that's kind of in the common area in the park.
Dan has something after too.
What's that?
Dan has a question after too.
Oh, Dan?
I have a two-part question, part for Dean and then for part for the board. Could you do an 8-foot wide slab? And the reason I'm asking for that is that section of river from the Swanton Dam all the way back to the Highgate Dam. Highgate doesn't have a boat. We're responsible for all calls in that area. We don't get a lot of calls, probably once every 8 years. We were asked to go to that section of the river, but we do use that ramp. So if you could go with an 8-foot ramp, it's easier for us to get our boat in there. The only other access is wall farm access, and that gets washed out. It's not always passable for a boat and a trailer. So if you were able to go to 8 feet, it would help out the fire departments as well.
Public safety component.
Yeah,
We don't go
there-
absolutely. We
don't
can
go
do
there
10
very
feet if that would be better. I think 10 feet, no one says 10, it was originally 10 feet, this asphalt access, and I think it's just gotten run over. So we could do 10 feet if that would be better, but, certainly 8 feet is fine. If we're building the forms and the concrete isn't super expensive, we might as well, and
So add
especially
another
if
200.
it incorporates the public safety stuff. Just another reason to do it.
Yeah, if the board goes, I wouldn't wanna go any wider than 10.
10 would be good for.
The only
both
reason
rounds.
why I say it is because I
10,
got a really good slope,
Yeah,
and I'd have to do it thick.
okay.
And the wider I go, the more work we're gonna have to do. So I do 8, I'd do 10 if I had to, but it's just gonna get harder.
I think 8 would be fine. It's like I said, we don't do it very often, but the few times we have to get into that section of river, that is one of the best spots, and then the wall farm's kind of the backup.
Yeah.
So
To be able
8,
to cover that area.
Probably the axle's 5 or 6 feet wide, probably on that trailer, right?
so
But
that's
this
2
truck
more
would be
feet than what
6.
you wanted, right? How much more is that?
It was 6. Worst case scenario, it could be $1,200.
Okay,
And I do it just like a sidewalk. That's how I would do it. I'd cut sections into it, so that way there, if it cracked, and have a little bit of flex.
oh, I
Yeah, makes
yeah,
sense.
okay.
Be controlled, yeah, because it
Yeah.
reflects the landscape.
And when it gets time, I'd have to see where the river is. And if the river's low, then I could get close to it. If the river isn't low, then I'd have to do some rocks, and like you said, we'd have to slide it in. But I wouldn't slide the whole thing in, I'd have to do a section, slide it in,
Yeah.
then pour my other,
I hear you.
okay?
Okay,
Tie the rebar back and forth. And that
gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah,
All right,
Solves that issue of,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be great. Let's make it wider.
Bigger, better?
Anyone have any other questions?
Not sure.
It sounds like to cement our support, that we should do a motion.
I make a motion to approve, Northern Forest Canoe Trails use of our land and PWD's, to help in this endeavor. I don't know what else you need.
Probably something that includes financial, so something like
Not to exceed,
I think just something in general that says, support Northern Forest Canoe Trail, in this project to include in-kind contributions, equipment, stone, and concrete at village expense.
what he said.
You're learning.
Got it.
Okay, so do we have a first and a second to support that motion?
I gave the first, so I need a second.
I would want to know a little bit more about the cost.
It sounds like we're responsible for the ramping part,
Yes, we are.
and the rest of the part would be part of Northern Forest Canoes work crew that would come up for a couple days. So it's a joint venture.
So it's
So you're thinking maybe 1,200?
$1,200
say-
and then,
Concrete.
Yeah, I'll say about $1,200 roughly for the concrete.
and then
The
time.
rebar, last time I think I bought 20 foot when I did my slab. It's like, don't hold me to it, $10, $10-20 for a 20-foot piece of half inch
Yeah.
for rebar. That was the best price that I got, was around here. And you're looking at a single axle load of stone of $75. Then I don't have any, I'd have to go buy some lumber, 6-inch. You know more on the lumber than I do
Yeah.
for the length on it. I
Yeah.
get 10-foot sections, and then I'd have to notch them a little bit, to get the angle on it.
2x6s would be fine, right?
Yeah, I'd have to use
He wants
2x6
to know how
if you
much
want
this will
6-inch.
cost.
So,
But yeah, it's not much.
Not-
Throw a
300.
dollar out.
so not to exceed 1,500?
I don't know yet
Right.
because I'm
If you
trying
had
to.
$100 in wooden screws or whatever, you're
Yeah.
probably lucky. I don't think it'd be that bad.
But that's, Alex, that seems like a pretty good compromise, right? If the trustees support the
I
in-kind
mean, you're
plus a financial contribution
So-
not to
Or
exceed
16-footers.
$1,500,
No, well, I mean,
and you know
two
that going in,
8-footers.
I
Some steel
would,
pins.
I would say 17, really, just
That's
to
okay.
have a cushion.
I
Not
could
to
second
exceed
that. I could second
that
that.
type of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Yeah, I think as far
But
as
that's-
in-kind contribution, that's amazing and would definitely help us securing the rest of the funds, so.
that's not taking into
yeah.
account your people's time.
right,
Well,
That's
that's
the-
Yeah, you know,
Okay,
Yeah.
That's true.
we
I'm
budget,
just,
we budget a 4-person crew at about $1,200 a day. So, you know, that is like 2,400 for 2 days of work, and then we'd have the materials for the picnic table and transportation stuff. So it'd probably come out to about 3,000 on our end.
So you're gonna go out and apply for grants totaling about $3,500, if I'm hearing you right,
I think so, too.
Or-
which is on top of which would be on top of the village
That's correct.
Yes.
in-kind
That's
amount.
my understanding.
That's for the picnic area and our tenting area.
Is that fair, Alex?
I'm sorry,
Oh.
it looks like I'm having a bit of trouble with my internet, so I just cut out for a second and didn't hear what.
So
what you said.
your group is gonna go out to look for grants totaling approximately $3,500 to do your portion, and then the village would do an in-kind of approximately $1,500 to $1,800.
Yep, exactly. That sounds like the figures that we've discussed would work out for both of us, so that would be great.
Okay, I just wanna make sure, because I wanna make sure that you folks are going out for the grants that you need, and, you know, our stuff is set if we'd agree to do this.
No, thank you.
okay, so I made a motion.
Yep.
Yep.
And there wasn't a second.
That's right,
Yeah.
because there wasn't any money in it.
So we've amended the first
So
So
motion to
amend
add
my
money.
motion to add not to exceed 1,700. And now,
I will second that.
Okay.
It is our property.
So we have a first and a second to work together and collaborate with Northern Forest Canoe to put in a tenting and accessible portage area, improvements for accessibility to Siskiyou River. Any other discussion? All in favor?
I,
Anybody opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain? Motion carried.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Alex.
Yeah,
That's
thank
a
you guys
great
for having
idea.
me. It was
Yeah.
a pleasure. I wish I could have been there in person, but I'm about to take off for a trip to Nepal and I need to pack up.
Oh,
So.
nice.
have fun.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a fantastic thing to have the trail go right through downtown Swanton.
Oh, no, you might as well
Yeah,
stay
great.
there. We're gonna talk about your light.
Well, you both could come forward, but.
You do as she
fantastic,
orders.
Alex, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah,
I'm trained
record it. We'll talk some more.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep, have a good night, everyone.
Oh,
You too.
I don't know.
Thank you.
6.
Actually, it's fire department first, so.
Fire department first?
Right.
Department first.
That's backwards. We should just go right. Diane, when you set this up, make it more like, so the dude comes and he just sits there for
He's
the
gonna stay
2,
for the
3,
whole
5,
thing. He
10.
wants to hear my, he wants to,
They could have sat together.
he wants to hear my spiel anyway.
Number 9, fire department equipment discussion with Fire Chief Dan Chevalier. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. So I just wanted to go over our 5-year plan and what that's gonna look like for the fleet and the proposal we have for you tonight. This plan was made with myself, Assistant Chief Troy Campbell, and other members of the department. We took into consideration, just to give you some backstory, what the community's told us so far, things that they voted on in the past, and comments of where they'd like to see us go. And we'd like to try to deliver that to them.
I didn't put it on my.
Just yes from us.
So. To go back to the canoe trail there, like I said, we only deploy there probably like once every 8 years, but when we do, we're the only boat that can get in that section of river,
Well,
so.
nice to have, right?
Mhm.
No, it's a good
If
idea.
we're doing it, just do it once.
Well, if you guys
Maybe
remember
use
like
one.
2004, 2005, they were jumping off the Johns Bridge for
Yep.
recreation,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the gentleman,
Yep.
that was the only place we could launch from at that point in time, so.
No, it makes
So
great
since
sense
someone
to
else is
improve
on,
that.
I just do this.
Yes.
Yeah. And 2 people can come and go on it.
All right, so currently, if you follow the current plan that we're on, I should be sitting before you asking to replace engine 1. The problem is that the price in the market of trucks has gotten so expensive. Engine 1 currently is $1 million. I don't think that's the right decision. I don't think that's the right ask of the community, and I think that there's other options that we put before the community. What we would like to do is not replace engine 1, and instead swap and keep the little tanker as is today and let engine 1 go down the road along with utility. As you can see here on the TV, what we would like to do is, again, engine 1's $1 million, and the utility is approximately $70,000 to replace both those trucks, and both those trucks are up to be replaced. We'd like to combine them. We would like to recreate what we tried to do in 2018, but we have a better version of it. What you're looking at here is what's called a mini pumper. And on the next slide, you can see, like I said, North Hyde Park already has one. This is what the goal would be, is that this truck is essentially a Swiss Army knife for the fleet of the department. It can perform as an engine can, and I'll go over that again in a little bit. It really is a jack of all trades. It has the capabilities of an engine while still being smaller utility. It's easier to drive. The driver's training on this is almost non-existent. It's so easy for anybody to handle. It's smaller, it's easier to handle. It really is gonna be the future. You'll see a lot of departments going to this. Again, the price of equipment has gotten so expensive, you have to make adjustments to make sure you're retaining the capabilities the community expects to have, while at the same time being financially responsible, and we believe that this truck does this for our department. That's, like I said, that truck already exists. We would like to form a truck committee to go out and spec out similar versions of this, to see which versions that we would like. We would then bring before you 3 different bids to figure out how we could get our best bang for our buck for this piece of equipment. And again, this truck already exists, so we wouldn't necessarily have to build it from the ground up. We would just have to go out and see what was already built and what would work well for Swanton.
So just, I'm sorry, so you would keep the little tanker
Correct.
and you would get rid of engine 1 and the utility truck?
Correct.
That's the one we drove around in that one,
Yes.
right? Okay. And then you would get that, so what do you have in your equipment fund right now?
Can I answer that at the very end, because I have the slideshow?
Sorry.
Yep. So if you go to the next slide, the benefit of us going away from a $1 million piece of apparatus to something smaller is that this would bring our fleet down to 5, which is what the community has expressed they'd like to see. So the fleet, instead of being 6, would be 5. It would open up a free bay in the fire station for any future needs. I would personally like to see a future purchase of our gear room, clear room, getting the gear away from the rest of the trucks and giving it in its own space, in its own room, away from the rest of the fleet. Maintenance costs on a mini pumper is a quarter of what it is on an engine. So to give a little bit of a backstory, the ladder truck, windshield was taken out by a blue heron. That was a $1,600 repair on that piece of equipment. On the mini pumper, it would have been $250. Tires, $6,000, $2,000. Across the board, this truck is financially cheaper for us to run, so our maintenance budget would be very welcome to having this truck. Things like fuel costs, your miles per gallon would double and triple. Again, it has 90% of the capabilities of an engine, and it has 100% capabilities of the utility truck. So we will still retain what we're able to do now, which is hopefully being able to save the community a financial impact. It'd be able to pull the boats, it'd be able to pull the hazmat trailer, and it'd be able to pull the Argo. There isn't a call that truck wouldn't be able to respond to. Now, it is not a first due piece of apparatus. The big, larger trucks, ladder, engine 2, engine 3, and little tanker would be your primary firefighting pieces apparatus. But the smaller, more nuisance calls to where people are like, why is a $1.7 million ladder going out for a tree down? Okay, well that makes sense. We may take the smaller truck and keep the bigger one in reserve for the actual real calls, pool and grain, cargo, merchants row, and things like that. So it truly is a multi-purpose truck to handle.
When
for us to
there was
handle.
the vote in 2018, what did they vote to get rid of?
The vote in 2018 was to take old engine 3 and little tanker, combine it into new engine 3.
Okay.
The problem we're having with new engine 3 is we kind of created some issues to where it doesn't fit everywhere it should. We have 50 locations. It does not fit to include all the campgrounds and a lot of camps on these side dirt roads. It just, you
Right.
can't get it in, and if you can get it in, there's no place to turn around and get it back out.
And then places off from Woods Hill Road, right?
Correct,
Okay.
yeah.
And so, do you currently still have old engine 3?
No, old engine 3 was
It's gone.
sold. Yeah,
So
yeah,
you just have little tanker from that?
yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
Go
right.
ahead.
So, the fleet as it would be designed, approval, everything goes through, again, we'd go down to 5 trucks. You would have 2 tankers, an engine, a ladder, and a mini pumper. The 2 engines and the ladder would be your primary attack vehicles for any major fire events, with the 2 tankers running tanker shuttle. The benefit of having 2 tankers, the little one and engine 3, is that if one goes down, then the other one's still in service. If we were to go down to 1 tanker and that one goes out of service, what would happen is we would be 100% dependent upon our mutual aid around us for tanker shuttle. I think it's a tactical flaw, and I don't think that that's doing our due diligence for the town of Swanton, especially those residents who don't live in the hydrogen area. So having both those tankers, I think, is a benefit to the community. Also, this plan, and I was able to show Adam our ISO rating for our homeowners insurance. This plan does not change that. Other variations of what we would do to trucks would eventually wind up changing the ISO rating, which could affect the homeowners insurance. So we really haven't changed any of the important stuff. We've just been able to change
the financial impact. Again, a mini pumper versus an engine. There is grant funding available. Heidi has found the grant funding available. It's just a question of when we'd be allowed to pursue that. Everybody knows how good Heidi is with what she does. And so we would pursue any and all of these to reduce the cost of the purchase of a piece of apparatus. So to answer your question, Susie, on the screen here in front of you, the mini pumper, this is a soft number, this is an inflated number, and this is a rough number that I got just in order to be able to have this conversation. This is not a bid number. I've been told that would be less.
Okay.
The mini pumper is $430,000. We currently, at the end of this year, will have $200,000 in our truck replacement fund. So when you minus that out, the new price tag would be $230,000. We are currently putting $70,000 a year in the equipment replacement fund away for purchases like this. It takes 2 years to build a truck. It doesn't matter what size, it doesn't matter what capabilities. That's the timeline, and that's just due to demand and the way they're getting parts, the way they're getting motors and whatnot. So you order it today, it's not coming until 2027. That doesn't matter what manufacturer, they're all the same at this point. So given that we have 2 years until it would theoretically arrive, you have an additional $140,000 saved up. New price tag goes down to $90,000. We identified the grants. We wouldn't know what grants we would get, if any. Worst case scenario, we would, you get none, it's zero. We would need $90,000 to cover the cost of the truck. Engine one's current value, depending on the buyer, selling it used, which we've been very successful doing in the past, that's where old engine 3 went. Old engine 1, before this truck, is currently serving in Saco, Maine, and is still active and is still being deployed. We've had very good luck selling apparatuses used to smaller departments that can't afford a brand new one. Its current value right now is $125,000. That's the middle of the road. It's anywhere from 100 to 150 depending on the buyer. So the price of engine one, the sell price for engine one alone would cover the additional $90,000. What that means is that we would be able to buy this mini pumper with no financial impact to the taxpayers on property taxes or anywhere else. It would be essentially, and I don't know if this is the right word, and Bill will tell me if it's not, we would essentially be able to pay cash for this piece of equipment. No?
Yeah, I mean, there is an impact every year of the trust fund, and the taxpayers are contributing to that.
Yes.
But yes,
But there are no additional.
there it is.
There
That's
would
the
be
No
no
additional.
bond, correct, there'd be no
Tax,
bond, there'd be no
right.
property tax.
And it wouldn't raise the taxes.
Right.
This purchase.
If all these numbers were to work out, you'd actually be able to cover the price of the mini pumper while having an additional $35,000 of profit. Given that we would be getting rid of utility 6 as well to meet the 5 truck requirement, per John Barrett, the utility 6 is roughly around $20,000 value. And we would just sell that and put that towards the profit margin, roughly around $55,000. So replacing a truck, potentially making a profit, and there's no taxpayer.
And that would just go back in your truck fund.
Yes, that's kind of up to you guys to where you would like to see it go. I would actually ask you to use
I'm
it.
telling, no.
Plus reducing the overhead and cost of maintaining
Correct.
So-
larger and more fleet.
Dan, did you factor in 2 years of depreciation on both the units? So maybe worst case scenario, it's not 55, but it's,
So per the dealer rep I was dealing with, which is HME, he says given the price of the engines right now, that they're not gonna go down. Smaller departments are gonna be, we're gonna have a hot button item
okay.
that smaller departments that see that $1 million for a piece of apparatus are gonna go instantly into the used market, and we're gonna have, we take care of our equipment, we take very good care of our equipment, and they're gonna see engine one, and it's gonna be,
So it's an in-demand option out there.
yes, yeah.
And who knows, you might get 150.
Exactly,
You know,
I mean,
You might just cover this cost of the truck. With that.
Well, the reduction in cost of the 6.
Well, and then the
operating costs
the
alone
amount of
afterwards.
maintenance and,
mhm.
overall cost of
Yep.
the vehicle is gonna save us a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Makes a lot of good common sense, Dan.
Yep. So the last slide is essentially, because people have talked about it so much, Little tanker, when it was originally marked to be sent down the road, at the time, it seemed like a good idea, but now that we've had the time to experiment and really test the theory out, little tanker is old enough that it's very easy to maintain, it's very easy to fix, it's very easy to overhaul. It's the old technology, it's not bogged down with computers and wires. It's a good, solid truck. We would actually like to take potentially maybe some of that profit margin to give it a once-over, refurbish, maybe do some inspections to make sure that what we're assuming is right, and then continue to run it. One estimate we got from mechanic is that if we do everything right and everything checks out, we could get potentially another 10, 15 years out of it. Again, no cost to the taxpayers except for fuel, maintenance, windshield wiper blades. So it kind of makes sense to keep some of this old technology because it's easy to keep going.
No, that's another
Yeah.
good decision,
That
Yeah.
is-
for sure.
that makes sense.
The other thing to this proposal is if this was to go through, we would be in a position to where we wouldn't have to come back before the board and ask for an equipment upgrade again until 2034. So that's a lot of years of
Also
saving.
another bonus to the decision.
Perhaps, based on the body language, you should have led with that.
I can't see too many people having too many issues with this proposal, yeah.
So, my request is to get permission to pursue this plan and to come back to the board with what we would need, that the board would need to actually pursue it in a purchasing manner.
So,
What kind of motion would you need, Diane?
it's like, does he need a motion for a truck
Or just,
committee?
I don't know, to
Just
set them
approval?
free to peruse, I don't think you need a motion, do you?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, so if you're gonna investigate and figure out,
Right.
just, we can just leave it as the board supports this decision.
Yep.
Board is, until he actually has some solid numbers.
Okay,
And then he might need a motion for a sale of engine one or
Yep.
the purchase at that time.
What we would do too, is, and we've done it before in the past, is that we go out and we find a buyer for engine one, and we would enter an agreement, or you would enter an agreement with them saying they can have engine one when the mini pumper arrives,
Right.
which is what we've done in the past, so there's not a gap in the responsive capabilities.
I hear you, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And then utility, I think, is gonna be relatively easy sell.
Everybody's got the same 2-year.
Everybody does, E1, HNE, it really doesn't, it's just because of getting motors for the engines, all the diesel upgrades, the EMS stuff, or, emissions stuff.
It's a great proposal. Thank
So
you.
you're gonna form a committee next and then move forward with the,
Yes.
That's reasonable.
Yeah.
well, good luck.
Thank you.
Keep us posted.
No questions?
Not yet.
Wait till you come back with the numbers, Dan.
Yeah. that's it.
We'll put
Less
that
and
back here.
best and more at the same time. Right? Can't argue
Love
with
it. Good job, Dan.
that. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And then I think we're
Dean again.
coming back to Dean.
Oh, yes.
And
This might, I think, is.
number 10.
So I can kick this one off and Dean can fill in the blanks, but we talked about this last time. There's a critical need for Public Works to be able to work at night in all conditions when repairing water and sewer lines in a hole that's actually lit. I still am a bit dumbfounded that we do not have this technology, but we had Dean go out and get 3 different bids for towable light tower. So those 3 bids have come in, and the low bid, and the one that Dean's crew in Public Works would like to pursue, is $11,300 for a Wanko light tower, if I'm pronouncing that right. That's from Fink
Yep.
Equipment.
That's correct.
And then for the same exact model, no differences at all, got that sales and rental was $12,719.99. And then Sunbelt Rentals, it was a different but comparable light tower, was $19,350. So again, the low bidder with about a 10-week delivery time is $11,300. And again, it really comes down to they deserve and safety demands that they have something that they can
Oh, no,
utilize to work
absolutely.
safely.
Just for the people at home though, what are you using right now when you go down into the hole?
So we bought a light at the fire department bought years and years ago. It was battery. It was supposed to last for 8 hours. So the first time we had a water break, we took it, we set it up, and we got about 8 hours on it. Then it just starts going downhill after that. So once that died, we got some lights on the backhoe that we use. We use battery operated flashlights and headlamps. That's what we use.
Time to get you into the 21st century.
Yes, my friend.
Well, and like I talked about, when they did the force main
Yep.
bypass,
Yep.
and they had 2 of them towers, and it was like daylight there, and it's just completely different.
No, considering OSHA requirement, safety requirement, gives you a generator source of power too for equipment at the same
Yeah.
time,
Yep,
on site, in the
Yep.
middle of the night,
exactly.
when those frozen pipes burst.
Yep.
Funds will come from where, Bill?
I was just gonna ask, where?
Funds will come from where?
Water, 100% water.
100% water?
Yes,
Okay.
that's if they're working at night, it's probably 99.9% time you're working on a water line, and
That's
it
true.
meets the requirement for water.
$11,300?
Correct.
That's what he said.
Pretty much not any other reason why you gotta go
If
dig it
we're,
into the ground.
if we got a leak at night and if we're on Middle Road, anywhere, depending on what it is, it could be 6 to 11 hours.
How heavy is this thing? Can men lift it?
You ever see them on the side of the interstate that they're using right
You're
now?
towing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the size.
Yeah,
yeah, I couldn't do it.
there's a picture of the unit.
I don't know how heavy it is, Eugene.
I don't know what it's like.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I have it.
you're
I
gonna
saw a
tow
picture
that with your
somewhere
truck.
already.
We tow it with the truck, yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
wanna,
Yeah.
well,
They're not very big. You could probably grab it, move it a hand, move it
Yeah,
around by
move it
hand.
around
got
where you
wheels.
need it.
Yeah,
it's got wheels, yeah.
yeah.
And the lights are like,
I mean,
They can go on the tower and you take them and adjust
see them
them.
all.
adjust them however you want,
Yeah,
individually.
Yeah,
All right,
Um,
well, you gonna
Yeah.
make that motion?
Innocent sunshine.
You're gonna, okay, you do it.
I make a motion that we purchase a safety light for the night crew and water department for the sum of $11,300.
And I second that.
Okay, we have a first and a second to purchase the light tower for the Public Works Department. Any further discussion on that?
For safety's sake.
Yeah,
For safety's sake, exactly. Any other further discussion?
no, sir.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carried to purchase a new light tower for Public Works,
and we all thank you.
and we thank you, Dee.
Yes.
Not get people hurt, that's for sure, right? We can help it.
And we can use it for other purposes.
Yeah, there's lots of things, yeah, exactly.
They didn't hear me say that.
Okay, village manager update, Bill.
Okay.
All right.
You're on deck.
Okay, let's do a quick run through the project. So river crossing,
Oh,
nearly all done, the water line, the water project. I keep saying paving is gonna happen. Dean got confirmation tonight. We were told earlier today it was gonna be next week. It's gonna be Thursday. So Thursday.
this week or next?
This week, and again, unless weather, something
Oh, this
happens.
week.
Should be good weather today.
Supposed to do this week.
Yeah,
Should
starting
be good.
Thursday.
At the
Yeah.
latest next week, so Foundry done, little strip for Canada done. Dean's team already put the fence up and the no trespassing signs at both the top and the bottom.
Saw that.
Correct.
So
Nice.
that is complete. The last little piece, I still in back order, is the cover for the access.
Correct, for both sides, for Webster
yeah.
and Foundry.
So-
Still in back order.
As soon as those come in, it's done. Dean's crew will do a little bit of cleanup work in the Foundry Street boat launch. And then he has until spring planting time to get all the excess material mounded up, that's mounded up there in the cornfield area, out of there.
Oh my.
All the junk.
A lot of junk, a lot of good stuff. I think we're gonna
There
get
is
some
some
good
good
material
stuff.
out of that.
Got some, Bill, we
And,
need to,
We, Missisquoi High School, MVU High School is willing to take some of the fill out behind their heat plant. They got some area they want to fill in, and
okay,
We
that
got some
saves us
projects.
trucking a greater
Yeah.
distance, so
Great.
that's good. Any questions reference that project? So we're just about to put it in the books. It's complete.
Before snow.
Lead service inventory. So you've seen a lot about that. We have 1,375 service lines. We inspected, did an inventory of 100% of those. 8 have issues that need to be replaced. So 4 have lead, 4 have galvanized requiring replacement.
Only 8.
Just because it's old.
I don't know why, but it's just a criteria that requires replacement, so.
Yeah, it doesn't last
Kind
forever.
of solidifies up on the inside.
8 lines, that's it.
So
Eight, almost 2,000.
what remains to be determined is who assists those homeowners in replacing those. It's, the state of Vermont is gonna try to put together something for funding. We drafted a letter today, under my letterhead that's gonna go out and identify those homeowners. I believe they're already aware, but they're gonna be informed of next steps. In all likelihood, the state of Vermont is gonna identify funding in the future, in the spring. We will probably be the recipient of funding, and then reimburse homeowners after they prove that they've made repairs.
So there is
Something like
a financial component to help with last 8.
that. Maybe.
Fantastic.
Maybe, we're not sure, but there are just 8 out of 1375, that's pretty good. That's really
Very
good.
good.
It is.
Dean talked about the Public Works opening. I do also want to say that not only do we hire Nick File, but what a very competitive field for this position.
You said 8.
Double-digit applicants, scheduled 8 interviews. 1 forgot about the interview, so we interviewed 7. And honestly, any of those 7 probably could have done it, but 4 with tremendous amount of experience. So we're doing something right in that area for sure.
All right, congratulations.
Wastewater. So that project, again, it's in its infancy, but there's large milestones that are happening. It continues to be on time. A reminder, it's due to be completed mid-December of 2025.
Yeah.
So they're gonna do as much progress as they can to include switching back to the main line from the force main bypass.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that's gonna be another overnight project for that team, for Dean's team, for water and wastewater. I hate to say it, it's gonna be the end of November. Not so good working at night in those conditions in that hole, but, or for your team with a Vector, but we got no choice.
Okay.
So that's another massive hurdle in this project, but, again, it's on time, a lot of little things happening, and, it's a good project so far.
How's the centrifuge story going?
The centrifuge is, sitting in the garage, lonely, and, with no, controls to hook it up to, and no, no stand to place it on. Both, we had our monthly meeting today, and, both are in the works. It's just, I'd love to say November, but, May, almost think it may never happen. It's frustrating.
Okay.
We'll get there, but.
So a new stand needs to be fabricated and controls are missing in the work somewhere.
Correct. Controls have to arrive, the stand has to be there. So we are right now, we're dewatering 0 tons of sludge, and that's just the
Piling it up.
reality of it.
Yeah.
So we are ready
The
to,
plug and go scenario.
we are ready to land apply. We've done our testing, we're waiting for the state of Vermont to get back to us and get us a green light, but
You can
end
do
of
it.
October, early November, we'll
You
land
can-
apply, and we got
yeah.
roughly 90 to 100 tons.
Can you imagine?
It's not as much as normal. If you go down now and look at that back building, it doesn't look like that
Barns
much,
filling
but
up, but
it's really not
What
much at
company-
all.
What company do we use to spread it? We do our own?
We're doing it actually this fall.
Yes,
In
You
a
do it-
couple
you do
weeks,
it
we're gonna be
yourself?
doing it. We all do it, yeah.
yes,
Okay.
Swanton Village Trucking Company. Yes.
I never,
Okay.
I never seen them do it, so.
We
Yeah,
utilize a local farmer to spread it,
Yeah, okay.
but we truck it there.
That's
okay.
correct.
And they have a very prescribed, strict regimen, X number of days. Here's exactly where it has to go,
Yeah,
and it rotates every 2 years.
well, the field is ready.
Yes. It is ready.
I looked the other day.
Moving on to hydro, so unit 1 and 2 are still down for repairs. Unit 1 is right at the finish line. Unit 1 is, remember, we had to do a control ring, and when you put a new component on a 100-year-old unit, it didn't quite, it lined up, but it needed spacers. So those are being manufactured at a plant in Chittenden County with a 2-week turnaround. So hopefully,
Okay.
Hopefully, we will be online within a month, but I keep saying that.
They
It's,
make us such a few stamps.
it's just, and then unit number two is, that we're trying to find that magnetic center. The company's coming back in. They think they can get it. I was in a meeting with them last week and they believe they'll get it this time. Fingers crossed.
Okay.
Unit 4 is up and running fully. We're producing, with that dump of water, we're at 7.7 right now, so we're maxed out using units 3, 4, and 5. So 7.7, ISO New England's figures are very high, so it is nice to be nearly covering our load demand right now.
So what
So
was our
that's good.
lowest output that we had during
Well, when we were down and we were barely meeting min flow requirements because there was no water.
the, right?
I mean, we were literally in a mini drought there for a little while.
Unit
So-
5 was.
Unit 5 alone and barely min flow, 200 CFS, maybe 300. That's about it.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was what, 2 weeks?
It was a short window. But again, we had a pretty good year overall. Yeah, hydro wise.
Yeah, the water levels are still good too.
The internship, just to point out again, at the end of September, we completed another successful internship. Again, collaboration with MVU, funded by our FERC attorney, Paul Nolan, supported by $5,000 from the trustees. Young Blake Hancock came in and learned all about hydropower. While he has full-time employment somewhere else, he is a truly viable candidate, and as soon as we have an opening, he's gonna apply.
Oh.
So it's
okay.
exactly what this
Yes.
internship is designed to do.
Good.
So a true,
Good.
true success story.
Kudos
So
to you guys.
thank trustee
pulling that
Kelleher
Very nice.
for that, because she got him to apply. That's all her. Switching over to the electric department, just briefly, they were out most of the weekend. The good news is they were not out in our area. Very few outages in Swanton Electric's domain. They were with Vermont Electric Co-op most of the day, Saturday and Sunday, the entire team.
Yeah, I saw them rolling in on Sunday.
Yeah. So again, really important to have those relationships, because at some point, the shoe's gonna be on the other foot.
Yep.
And we're gonna rely on them to help us. So, the wind was massive, but didn't impact us like I thought it was going to. We continue to work with Weeman Lampier Architects on the design of a new facility. Of course, a couple of you are involved in those weekly meetings, so you know where we stand, but for the public, we're about to evaluate construction managers' request for proposals. That'll be on the 23rd off the top of my head. We sent out RFPs to 11 different companies, which means we'll probably get 5 to 8 submissions. So again, the construction manager is, you provide a relatively small percentage of upfront cost to help them, to have them be subject matter experts and really drilling down the finite cost of what it's truly gonna cost to build a building, so you know what to bring to the voters for a bond. So the intent is to go out and ask the voters where they stand on a bond in March of 2025. So that's the goal. We'll do a rubric, we'll have a scoring system of everybody that's on those weekly meetings. Identify the top 4 or 5 for the bigger board of trustees. They'll come in, make presentations, board of trustees select who they want for a construction manager. I don't think so.
Not right
No.
now. Okay.
But since you whispered it, we probably, the question is the subject of funding, right? It's,
People are gonna watch this.
yeah, if people watch it, the funding is gonna be, it's an electric department, so it would be incorporated into rates. We do have a bond that recently expired, a 30-year bond, that's between 350 and 400,000 a year that can be applied toward this, which is a significant chunk of it. So it really, we'll do our best that we can to identify impact on the voters, but we need to have the final cost yet before we can really do that. But it's not a tax, it's
Rate.
rates amongst all 3,800 ratepayers in 3 different communities, well, 2 different communities.
Now, by the time you guys vote on who's gonna get the contract,
will you have blueprints by that point, by like another half
No,
year
we-
after that, or?
No, we utilize a construction manager to do that. So
Okay.
while we have square footage requirements, we'll
Yeah.
have those mapped out, and that's what they're going by. We won't have any set of real defined blueprints for a while. We will have public meetings
Yeah.
shortly after the construction manager is selected. Not 38. Been told don't do that many. 3.
Right.
3 to 5.
Yeah, yeah.
3-ish, to educate the public, answer any questions, and then certainly the budget build leading up to the March date. We always do our informational meetings, and we'll highlight it there as well.
With the last bond vote that you had as part of this electric department, did you have an issue passing that bond vote at all, do you know? Or
For
was
the
it-
dam improvement 20 years ago?
Yeah. No?
Overwhelming support.
Obviously not.
Yeah,
No,
no,
the electric
Yeah.
bonds,
What was the
Yeah.
question?
if we ever had any resistance on passing electric bonds that the voters voted on in the
Just
past.
curious.
I mean, I've been here
Going
2
back
years.
A long
so-
time now, that's
Yeah.
40 years ago.
Yeah. The
But
key
the
component
voters-
is.
The voters approved all those
No,
very,
not
very,
taxes.
very, very well,
Yeah.
like 2 to 3 to 1.
Is,
I don't have the
think that-
numbers right here, but I remember being here.
Yeah.
I think that's the difference, is it's not
Yeah,
a tax-based, like the public safety building was,
Yeah.
it's
You just have
It's
more people,
rate-based.
right?
It's
right.
property
There's
tax.
more ratepayers than there are.
It's
Thousand.
all of
Exactly.
Swanton plus Highgate, 38, roughly 3,800. I think, it's-
996
Yeah, it's gonna be
taxpayers
37, 38,
versus
I think.
3,800
right,
electric.
Versus 1,600.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
No.
the big thing is we just finished paying off a 20-year bond, but the last big,
Yeah, well, he's going voting list versus taxpayers.
yeah.
She said there's 900 something.
996
No,
tax accounts,
Oh,
1,600 registered voters,
right.
Right,
but only
Yeah.
996
There's
tax.
something like
Yeah.
2.5.
it's a big difference.
Sorry, I'm not trying to.
Yeah.
We call out.
Yeah.
No,
I'm not trying
those
to
are,
keep you going longer.
no, those
No,
are
no.
great.
No,
No,
no.
Diane in
Thank you for asking
particular
questions.
likes it if I filibuster.
There's a lot of good
I'm hoping
aspects
we're
of
here
this.
till about 11.
The big one, taking it off of,
Keep them coming.
yeah,
Oh, jeez.
yeah.
I get picked
The
on. That's
already
how it's-
overwhelmed property tax
Yeah,
issue,
yeah,
yeah.
I got you.
So that's the plan for the bond. Marble Mill lighting, if you've driven by at night, you'll notice the brand new lighting on the 4 utility poles leading from the parking lot down to the tennis courts. Next steps are, we're waiting on contract with Ryan Jordan to go underground to connect some stuff, and then we'll do the tennis court lights in the brand new LED. We're making progress. Trustee Paxman, progress on dual poles. So Dwayne wanted to make sure that I pointed out to you that for last week, so sometimes it takes a long time for consolidated communications in particular when we replace a pole,
Oh, yeah.
and the old pole remains for a finite, for a long period of time until they
There's
can
several
move.
on Grand Avenue.
So
Yeah.
4 done, 4 to 5 more anticipated very soon, maybe this week. So we're making some progress
Great.
with them.
Thank you.
You're
Do
welcome.
we know
And
how
again,
they're
please
working
let
on the
Dwayne know
ones
if I
on
can
Grand
help.
Avenue over by Skip's house?
I don't know where they're working. I didn't get into that granular detail. And then AMI.
Less balls.
So we continue to make progress in this area. Again, it's taking a long time. But I want some clarification for communication that went out. We are required, it's not the village trustees that said we're gonna hire some independent contractor to help us market this. This was mandated actually by the State of Vermont Public Utility Commission when AMI was rolled out. So that post that was put on our Facebook page was to solicit interest in helping us detail next steps and how this rollout was gonna happen, identify any issues or concerns. And a lot of the comments were I guess what I've come to expect from that page sometimes. So there's no plot, there's no unnecessary expense by us. And at the end of the day, we're not even sure that AMI is going to cause an increase in rates, in particular in the electric side. The water side, likely, but that's due to other projects, so water and sewer kind of collectively together. And we have some upgrades there, but negligible impact, except in our ability to be much more efficient and effective in the way that we deploy, read, and respond to
Well
water
said.
and electric issues. So
I couldn't do it.
if there are AMI questions, people can feel free to call me directly instead of just guess. So that would be helpful. Moving on to next door, 124 First Street. So the latest, greatest, as we continue to embrace the opportunity to work with the state of Vermont in identifying data gaps in full recognition of our impact on the environment, we're working with them. We believe that by the end of this year, we will at least have a plan to execute next year. And again, probably the most important part for the Board of Trustees is the fact that between Northwest Regional Planning Commission and petroleum cleanup, 100% up to this date has been paid for by them. So no money out of pocket. The next phase there might be, but at least at this point, we're
Are
moving
we on
forward.
phase 3 of 41?
Yeah,
We're just identifying additional opportunities to embrace
Okay.
this opportunity
Data
to
gaps.
fill data gaps.
data gaps.
Okay.
Have we made a plan to annex said property?
You should.
That will be during the legislative session. We have to, in all likelihood, on the House side, identify somebody who will sponsor annexation, and then it's really a fairly routine thing. So,
Matt Walker, Tom Oliver?
any of the above, I can start outreach probably November, December timeframe, but then the session has to start, and then that process will move forward.
Once it's annexed, then it can become.
Once it's annexed, then it would be, we would get tax relief until such time that we did build, if we're successful, and we build Swanton Electric facility over there, then you can be taxed on the land at that point, I believe, but I'm not clear on that part.
I'm not clear.
Here's what we know, right?
Remember
We
the
thought we had
taxes
we thought we had tax relief.
Right.
The zoning followed up with us, and they made an error not in our favor, like the Monopoly game. And we now are responsible, once again, for paying taxes on 124. So we will do annexation through the legislature this session. Couple quick things, the police department, so if anyone wants to be a Swanton police officer, anyone at all that is interested, feel free to apply. We do have 2 openings now, and it's a
Two
long.
full-time openings.
2 full-time positions, and it is a long process. Even if you're full-time certified, it's a little less onerous, but we will consider the right candidate, and there are current applicants that are being vetted, but we'd love more. So if there are people out there that have an interest, reach out for Chief Matt Sullivan and have a conversation.
What's to get an officer fresh off the street, is it a year at
It's a
least?
year,
Mhm.
yeah.
Academy and then FTO.
Yeah, interview process
All
and
day.
just the entire hiring process is about 7 steps to include a polygraph and a background.
Yeah.
And then you go to the academy, roughly 20 weeks to include post-basic. Then you do your field training, and you'll be driving a cruiser on your own in about a year. You will be driving a cruiser on your own in about a year.
Swanton Village
So-
PD wants you.
Do you want to do an application
Welcome.
this evening? And the last little piece, and I should have said it when Dan was here, Swanton on October 9th hosted elementary school students for a tour of the fire department with a focus on fire prevention. And it is tour season again. We have 6 dates lined up with MVU between here, PD, fire, and hydro. And again, they paid dividends. That has been a recruiting sweet spot for the fire department. They literally have gotten people that have filled out applications the very next day after having a tour of our fire department, especially the cadet program. So
Nice.
it's been great.
And nobody wants to go down and see the water wizard at the water treatment facility down there. That's quite a place.
Oh,
Missing out.
I went
That's
down
fun.
to it.
Do you want a tour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can have a tour of anything you want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Stop by.
Go stop by
Yeah.
tomorrow or something?
Sure. Yeah, yeah,
You wanna
absolutely.
see Todd?
Yeah, yeah, water, I mean, wherever you wanna go, you can go.
Okay.
Sadly, I know it's not quite 11 o'clock, Diane, but that's all I have.
Any other necessary business?
Yeah, I just want to talk about my hometown heroes banner program for a
Yeah.
short moment. So I currently have 33 of the 75 banners spoken for. I have, there's 19 names on the monument in Veterans Park of soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines that were killed in action. And I currently have 3 of those who have been sponsored. So I'm looking for 16 sponsors for the other ones. So if anyone, and any amount of money will help. It doesn't have to be a full sponsorship, a half sponsorship, anything will help. Just reach out to me by email. And if you have given me your information on your hero and you did not name a specific place that you would like to see your hero's banner, but you have a specific place you would like it, please email me about that as well. A few people are wanting them near their houses or near where the hero grew up or lived, and I'm gonna try to honor that the best that I can as long as the poles are able to accommodate. Some of the poles have, those little gray boxes on them, and I can't put or it has like lines on the backside. I can't put them on those, but I've been working with Dwayne to identify which ones I can and can't, so we're getting a pretty good handle on that. So anyways, I just wanted to update everybody on that.
Congratulations, halfway there,
Yes,
that's great.
we're doing really good.
And I spoke to Dwayne today about it, and your question, I think he's gonna arrange a ride along with you.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And as far as just 2 things for me, one, just a reminder, Halloween in the Park is Saturday, October 26th, 5 to 7. Get the little kiddies out there, there'll be a lot of businesses out there, with pop-up tents and things like that, so it'll be a fun time. I'm not, I think the library's doing something, but I don't know, so don't quote me on that. They usually do, so, but there's that, and just a yes or no question for our village manager. Any update on FERC? Relicensing. Thank you.
The
That's all I ask.
never-ending question, right?
Well, you said yes or no.
Yeah, that's all I wanted.
Do you want any detail?
A&R.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, that's all I want.
We are making progress with our required studies, so Becky, who came in from Just Water Consulting,
Yeah.
is doing flow studies and habitat studies in the river. There's a few things that didn't work because of high water again this summer. She's trying to recreate those now, submitting that to the state. They may say, ready, that there are data gaps that we will need to fill next year. We're okay with that. Okay, this is, it's an extension of,
Yep.
of our ability to operate on our old license, which means we can pond, we can peak. No run of river.
Yep.
Like peaking today is producing 7.7, it's precious to us.
Absolutely.
So, but other than, we have safety inspection requirements that are due, 7 of them to FERC by January 1st that we're gonna do, and we'll meet that requirement on time. Nothing, for relicensing at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for expanding upon that.
Yeah.
No,
I had to stick with a yes or no at first, I gotta do this.
good information, I mean.
I would've been happy with no.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for me.
Ends it for any other business?
I'm okay.
Moving on to number 13, do we have executive session to discuss legal matters?
We do.
We do, okay.
I move and find that we enter into executive session for the trustees to receive confidential legal information for which the premature disclosure of it to the general public would clearly place the trustees and others at substantial disadvantage. Roll call motion for vote. Aye.
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 Who seconded that?
We are,
What's that?
Who seconded the motion?
we just did a roll call motion for vote.
Did a roll call
Second with
motion. So we've had a first, second, and third, I guess. So we're all in favor
Yeah, I can
of
make.
going into the executive session?
Yeah, make the motion to go into
Doesn't
executive
matter.
session,
I will.
discuss legal matters,
At 21:20, 21:10.
21:10.
Okay,
All those in favor?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carried to enter into executive session to discuss legal matters, and we thank you for coming.